Yeah, hi, good morning, and a very warm welcome to all the participants joining us today from India and across the globe. On behalf of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICAI, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to this global webinar on exposure drafts of Information Systems Audit Standards, ISAS, the global opportunities for standard chartered accountants. At the outset, may I take this opportunity to extend my best wishes to all of our participants for a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. We sincerely hope that the new year ahead brings continued professional growth, new opportunities, and success for each one of you. Our Honorable President will be joining us shortly. And before that, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our Chairman DAP, CA Dayanivas Sharma sir, whose visionary leadership has been instrumental in shaping ICAI's initiatives in the area of information system audit, forensic accounting and investigation, cybersecurity, data protection, digital assurance, and emerging technologies. Our Vice Chairman, Arpit Kabra sir, who has been a strong pillar of support in driving the board's initiative and global outreach. We are privileged to have us today an esteemed panel of domain experts who will enrich the deliberations with their vast experience and practical insights. I extend a warm welcome to our panel, CA Vittal Raj sir, CA Premnath D sir, CA Vijay Srinivas K sir, CA Anand Janged sir, CA Uday Kulkarni sir, and Shri Harish Dua sir. We sincerely thank all of you for sharing your valuable time and contributing to this important discussions on the exposure drafts of ISIS. This webinar assumes special significance as it focuses on the exposure draft of the Information Systems Audit Standards, which aims to strengthen the technology-driven audit and assurance practices and open new professional avenues for the chartered accountants in the digital era. With this brief, I, Dr. Ankur Khairwal, Secretary, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, now have the honor to invite our Chairman of the Digital Accounting Assurance Board, Syed Dayanavas Sharma sir, to kindly deliver his opening and welcome remarks and set the context for today's deliberations. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ankur. Good morning to all. Welcome to this interesting global webinar, which has been done uniquely for the outreach of the new standards which are going to come up, information system audit standards. But before that, let me wish you all people an happy new year, a prosperous new year, a healthy new year, and a happy new year. This year, I think there is going to be a lot of evolvements which are going to come in the profession because the globe is changing, so is the profession across the board. Friends, our president will be joining us shortly, and what a better day than this that on his birthday we are coming out with this global outreach program for IS audit standards, and it's going to make a whole lot of difference in time to come, which you are going to listen shortly. Before I take a formal, welcome address as well as address for all you people, let me just tell you one fact that these faculties who are sitting on the screen today have been the national asset for our profession. And I'm proud that all these people, being a chartered accountant and non-chartered accountant as well, has given their blood and sweat to this profession all across all times. So not only the people who are on the screen, but there are a lot number of people who are across the board, who are trainees, who are faculties, who are people, who are experts who have contributed on a continuous basis on various topics. I'm not going to talk only about IS audit standards, but multiple such things which over a period of time have done it. But most importantly, the vision of the council and the 32 council members plus the 8 government nominees actually play a very important role because all the processes which we go through has to go through multiple round of deliberations, and that is how things actually evolve in this institute. Friends, without the support of employees of ICAI, I don't think anything can move forward because they are one of the strongest pillars of the entire ecosystem. And that is how Amit and Ankur both have been very important instruments in getting these things moving in a true spirit. Furthermore, though it is an extended, I'll not say employment, but a contributory, support, which has been given by no other person than Mr. Harish Dua, who has always been involved in designing all the forensic standards and the implementation guides and multiple such publications which are coming from the institute on the technical side. His years of experience are giving us a lot of input. Friends, let me again tell you, without this entire ecosystem, which is very positive, which is towards the betterment of the profession, which is towards the skill enrichment of the profession, it cannot move forward. Every pillar in this profession is important. But what is important is the vision of our president, who has to agree for certain initiatives that the council members actually put forward. And in this particular case, it has been a couple of months back where we were actually doing a deliberation in Mumbai. At night 11 o'clock, there was an idea thrown on president saying that why not we think about developing our own information audit standards. Just can you imagine over that night, I don't know what made him feel that confidence. The next day morning, in an inaugural program, he announced that yes, we are coming out with our own information system audit standards. Just imagine the same way when the vice president also echoes the same thought, it makes a loud voice in the entire council hall, and that moves in a direction where we stand today with this information system audit standards. Friends, world is evolving, so is our profession. And we have been doing this from quite a number of years, even before the Constitution of India has come. And most importantly, let me take the pride in mentioning one fact, that this is the 25th year of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. Just imagine 25 years back, we started the council at the then, whoever the president have been, the chairman have been, they thought 25 years back that information technology is going to be the key role for this profession. How much forward looking this profession is, can you imagine? It took us time to evolve, but that entire evolution has gone to a level where we are creating our own information system audit standards. Just imagine covering all the aspects. Earlier, the businesses used to be, they came into existence first and then it was supported by technology. Rightly said by Mr. Vittal Raj that the center table today is technology and evolving is the business around that. When you talk about a banking system, when you talk about any businesses, today you talk about any business, particularly you take an example of UPI, which is becoming very, very, very acceptable across the globe, and we are the largest number of transactions happening in the world is in India. The increasing use of IT is a resultant, we are getting this risk of cyber security also. I think not I think, rather is a fact that all the government and regulatory bodies today are talking about cyber risk which is attached with this country as such, because all the information is lying in one system called information systems setup. So this infrastructure is actually getting vulnerable towards the cyber security. And apart from, what is important is when you talk about numbers, the numbers are the role of chartered accountants in every case, because ultimately any business which is happening has to get certified. Now, the most important is a chartered accountant was used for the financial number crunching. But now, without an IT audit skill, that number crunching is not going to be possible. Please understand, it is not till there. Understanding of businesses is becoming very critical, and today every business you talk about is revolving around the information technology systems only. The software, the technologies, the kind of interlinks which are happening, multiple subsidiary or ledgers which are being created, huge amount of transition which is happening, and today the numbers Today, let us take example of GST. Why are we able to see this growth in this country? Because that is getting capturing the numbers. Why are we able to appreciate income tax department? Because they are able to capture numbers. When you talk about labor law and compliances, we are able to capture numbers. There is so much. Uh, I think somewhere there is a message which is there. Ankur, dekhna ek baar. Somewhere we need to all understand this. The integration of all the technologies at the government level is actually putting in lot of pressure for chartered accountants also to understand technology well. The flow of information from left to right, top to bottom, whether it is cross sectioning, please understand every information which is flowing is not on manual registers. It is following on the computers across the board. Today, the integrated approach which has been followed for different software, different purpose, accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll, production, inventory, and multiple things, all are getting integrated at one particular place, and there should not be a human intervention. Just appreciate the Reserve Bank of India, the way they came back in 2020, if I am not wrong, that there should not be any human intervention in processing of transaction. It was been a big circular released by Reserve Bank of India. SEBI is talking strongly with regards to the cyber security governance framework that need to be looked into, and that is also been appreciated across the board. Now, when you talk about IRDA, which is complete insurance process, where the entire protection of the assets as well as human value is being taken care, they are talking about completely cyber security and data protection, which is again getting critical. When you talk about any aspect, income tax portals, when you talk about GST portals, everywhere technology is playing very important role. Just see the way GSTIN is working. Just see the way IT portals are working. All the data are getting submerged in one single platform. Is that only for the purpose of assessment or enforcement agencies? The answer is big no. The authenticity of the data which is getting at the primary level into any system is getting certified by a chartered accountant, and we all have to understand the integration which is very critical. Now, why are we talking about IS audit standards? Please understand, in the IS audit standards, what has been happening is more of a theoretical process have been followed in information system audit framework. But when you talk about an assurance, it is very critical. So let me first welcome my Vice Chairman Arpit Kapraji. Thank you, Arpit Bhai, for joining. And I understand the traffic of Mumbai. So, so friends, the point which I am trying to put forward before you all people is, as the technology is evolving, is the business is evolving, and that is how the profession also has to evolve. Now, when we were discussing, we had 36,000, I think, yeah, plus chartered accountants who have qualified as DISA. But technically, if you ask about did we implement certain things, the answer is big no. Knowledge is respected well. It becomes wisdom only if it has been applied. But what was happening is when we were doing an assessment, the certifications are being taken by chartered accountants, but the only problem was, where do I start my implementation from? If I get an engagement, how do I move forward? There was no specific standard. It was all general law or general practices which have been followed over a period of time, taking in, picking up from various notifications which has come from the government, or might be some international bodies which are released certain kind of documents. So the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, has taken this strong call to make this entire approach a standardized approach, where how do I start and how do I end an engagement is to be put in the right perspective. Friends, this approach which we have followed, these all subject leaders who are across the country have come together and ensured that their knowledge which has been practiced from quite a period of time is beautifully been drafted in a particular standardized manner, which will become a benchmark for anything which is going to be required under information system audit framework. The government of India is strongly focusing on how technology need to be implemented. Let us take example of MeitY. which is really doing a great job from a point of view how and which way the data protection has to come. DPDP is going to be critical now, data privacy and data protection. Then the cyber security framework is going to be very critical now. When you talk about blockchain, when you talk about cloud computing, when you talk about cyber security, anything, ABCD of technology is getting critical in every aspect. Friends, these standards which have actually come from the best practices followed across the world. There have been some leaders in the world to adopt certain standard in a different manner. There has been multiple notifications, circulars and guidance given by Government of India, including Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, C&AG, IRDI or multiple other regulatory bodies. But the point was, do we have a consolidated standard which gives a comfort to a chartered accountant saying that if I have to certify certain thing, what procedure I need to follow? Today, I am proud. I am waiting for my president to join. But with this entire team, we are feeling so proud about the profession that this three overarching documents which are already been put for the public exposure plus 11 standards which are beautifully drafted in a proper sequence of how an engagement has to move forward is being put before you all. This is going to be a very important aspect of our profession because every number is flowing through a system. And when you talk about flowing through a system, there is a high amount of need that we all have to understand effectively where we are heading towards. And most importantly, uh, the flow in which it has to come. It has to, this IS audit standards are clearly articulating the objective and responsibility which an IS audit professional has to carry along with him. The shoulders are now going to be more stronger. The demand from regulatory side is high and everyone is looking at ICAI for all the things in this field of accounting and professional practice as such. Economy is defined with numbers and numbers are responsibility of chartered accountants. With this, one fact which I would like to leave is now it is not the concept of number crunching alone. It is basically authenticating the pipeline from which the number is flowing is right. Today we need to evolve and move towards technology skill set upgradation. It's very critical because every number will matter in time to come. We are looking India to be one of the largest nation in the world with regards to the economic power. And if chartered accountants take that lead, today we understood the income tax law, GST law, and multiple laws. Friends, information technology is nothing. Take it from me, it is easy to pick it up in a sense that only a right intent to learn a new thing is required. And fortunately, the DNA of chartered accountants has been so good that over a period of time, we have evolved, we have adopted, and we have implemented the best practices which the nation always wanted from us. This session of 1 hour, 2 hours, which is going to be there, is going to play a very critical role with regards to the basic understanding why this outreach has been done, what are the standards. We are going to take you through every standard for 10 minutes. My humble request to you all people is, please give your comments on the exposure draft, which is very critical because this is going to give a huge amount of opportunity for chartered accountants in time to come in their practice. Transaction level issues or might be the audit is going to evaporate now in the shortest period of time. What is going to be important is the technology driven processes, which is very critical, and numbers to be understood by us. Always we are the best. So with this, let me just tell you, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board is doing a lot of new activities, lot of new avenues are being worked out. We have already got the approval from the council with regards to the certification course for 3 days on DPDP. We have got a 3-day certification course approval for cyber security, and there are much more in pipeline to flow. My request to you all people, humble request, because it is your future, it is our future, it is most importantly the future of profession, which is very critical. So please share your comments and views uh, without fail on this outreach which has been done for IS audit standards. So with this, I'll request Ankur to take over, and then we might request our vice chairman to be with us. His finger is lifted on the back, but that is on digital side. Over to you, Ankur.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful opening remarks and setting the tone for today's deliberation. Before we invite our vice chairman for his remarks, may I request the technical team to play the WOFA 2.0 video, the flagship event of ICI. It's a short video. So, technical team, please play that video.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm overwhelmed. I'm excited looking at the crowd that has come here, and I'm reminded of the days when your institute started. All of you are aware that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India was set up an Act of Parliament way back on 1st July 1949. Last message of the day, we have to keep performing for this great country, making it the superpower of the world and empowering our fellow members so that all of us can create history, breach benchmarks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so this was the event WOFA 2.0, which is happening in Greater Noida on 31st of January and 1st February. We request all of you to please join this. It is the flagship event of ICI, and it is the second edition. So now with this, may I now invite our young, dynamic, talented, and technology-driven Vice Chairman of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, CA Arpit Kabra, sir, for his remarks, sir. For your address, sir, please. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, the chairman, Daniel Sharma, and thank you all the technical experts who are here assembled together on this one screen while we talk and introduce about one of the most unique offerings that the ICI has created so far, the Information System Audit Standards. Congratulations to all of you for making this possible. And to all the participants, welcome and happy New Year 26. What a start of a year. We're starting with something that could change the entire paradigm of what Indian chartered accountants were seen as. Imagine you are now being called upon by a regulator and asked about why have you not covered something which was on an IT server? And you cannot now claim that IT is not my domain. A chartered accountant now cannot say that, I don't understand the information technology, or that is not my part. I'm not an expert on that. This is what was given to me as a financial record, XYZ. I mean, all those limitations that we've been using from now on, I think every regulator expects that chartered accountant comes armed with a very, very important kit. And this information security audit standards becomes your survival kit. I mean, if you still believe that your IT controls and your report while you do an assurance engagement and only integration of systems or integration of websites or integration of wherever the data is flowing for an organization can only be a part of an annexure. Friends, let me tell you, you cannot audit a Ferrari using a bicycle manual. It is just like that. When things are developing, when things are overhauling itself, when the entire ecosystem is creating itself and it's becoming a larger than ever ecosystem, where today the income tax, the GST, the SEBI, the MCA, the DRI, the PMLA, the RBI mechanism, all of these data are now talking to each other. In that scenario, probably if we still raise our hands and say that, look, this is not our domain, whatever has been provided to us, we've just done an audit, we just looked at it from the financial perspective, I think that will not justify, that will not suffice. And as the chairman mentioned, DAB is literally like a research lab now. We are regularly upgrading ourselves. We are regularly thinking, brainstorming as to what all must have happened. What all, I mean, this is like a learning curve for us. What all is going on around in the ecosystem, how notices are being generated by MCA, how SEBI is coming up, how things are being, like for example, PMLA, for example, the NCB, the NIA, all of these people are now hungry on data. So they've got a lot of data. It's the analysis that is, just ripping apart every assurance that would have ever been given to them by any XYZ persons. Now, in this scenario, what is it that can really protect us? What is it that can really enhance us? What is it that can really um, give us that edge? These are those standards. I mean, these standards have been made keeping in view all of this. Now, whenever we talk about a fraud, for example, uh, how does that originate? And today, when we are armed with something called as a DPDP Act, let me tell you, friends, it's gonna be a revolutionary, just like the IBC was once. DPDP Act is gonna be a revolutionary thing that has been offered to this country so far. There's a lot of things which are going on in the surroundings. Of course, we see the income tax playing a very, very pivotal role now. The GST department, the DRI department, all of them playing such a aggressive role now. It is important for all of us to understand how do we secure the information system audit frameworks for our clients. Now that is where, just a mere knowledge of theory is not helpful. And we at ICI first thought that let us create something which is hands-on, which is like a real simulation environment. So be it fake vendor creation, be it ERP overrides, where all were there. Imagine someone who's downloading files from your server. I don't know how many of us have even gone and checked, have done an audit of a server of our client as to who is having an access, who has those audit trail override access, who has the payment diversion through emails, access manipulation, data deletion, log tampering. Never. We've not done that. And they have never been mentioned in any of our reports as well. See, these are the ways the frauds are now discovered. They're not discovered by vouching anymore. Now, by control testing, logs, access reviews, and system trail analysis, that is the information system audit thinking process. I think this is the approach that we need. And at DAB, I think, with, Harish Dua ji, Vijay, Uday ji, and Premnath, Vittal ji is here, Anand is here. All of them, we've been, every time we meet on a webinar like this, on a platform like this, we keep on brainstorming. This is the issue that we have heard about it. How do we override it? How do we ensure we do it? And that is how these standards have come into existence. And therefore, we need to absolutely, this exposure draft becomes so essential for us. We need to hear from every chartered accountant. Now, there are 12, 15, 20 chartered accountants that we heard, we brainstormed and we brought this. But we now need a larger population, a larger people participation so that we can make these standards foolproof, seamless, and future proof. And why is that important? Is again, as I said, we might be taking stands very soon. When you're not formally doing an information, you are still expected to, for example, evaluate risk, test internal controls, the data integrity, reliability of financial information that is being provided, that is being generated by systems. And now that is where, I think test check and materiality will no longer be our weapons. We have to go to the root level and actually identify and deliver on our report. And our audit opinion will be based on ERP access controls, change management, backups, what are being happening, who has the access, who has the overriding powers, cybersecurity hygiene, and what have been the logs. The DPDP Act, as I said, the RBI cybersecurity framework, the SEBI cyber resilience requirements, and certain directions. The CERTIN, if you would have seen, this agency is now becoming core and the center of almost every other framework that is being evaluated by any stakeholder. We at DAB want our chartered accountants to become certain empaneled, to be ready to be certain empaneled, and that is why the introduction of ISA standards. And look, when it would be required, when they would need an entire army of people who will be actually available for doing all of these functions, they would need manpower. And who would be that manpower? Of course, it will be we, the chartered accountants, because there's no one who's even talking about it. Of course, there are people with tidbits of knowledge in different domains, but someone who's coming up with the 360-degree knowledge of how to read a financial statement versus how to understand the information system audit framework, I think those are the people who would be in most demand. And not only here, imagine you are now in the UAE, you are in the Gulf, you are in African countries, you are in Australia, New Zealand, you are in, say, London, or you're in a US framework. I think all of this, every assurance, every audits, every other certification will require you to generate something on information system and securities. Now, therefore, let's not pretend that our audit quality can drop and risk can skyrocket. The forensic works is incomplete. We lose our advisory territory to IT firms, and we cannot do that now anymore. And you become irrelevant in the digital trust economy. And to avoid all of this is why we've brought ISA standards. I must really, these are very good standards. They're small ones as of now, but yes, they have a huge implication. The expectations that they set is really good, and that is where they'll empower us. And the Digital Accounting Assurance Board wants to now create modules, now capsules, so that we can bring on board every chartered accountant, be it a experienced, be it a new chartered accountant, because these are some things that we've been talking of, we've been hearing of, we've been looking at in almost every other sci-fi series, but we've not implemented it yet. So I would request all of you to take out your time, read these standards, send in your, maybe somewhere in a maybe a tier 3, tier 4 city, you would imagine how would these be made applicable? How would we do all the testing? How do we get these tools and all? Please write that. Please ensure that is being told to us. We want to hear all the concerns. We want to understand how, whether these will be relevant in your space or not, and what would you think would be the difficulty that you would face while you are actually implementing any of these standards. And I'm telling you, everything has a solution today. Everything has a solution today. It's just that you have to raise the finger, just as you can see on my background. You need to raise a finger, let us know, and I'm sure the DAB will work and give you a solution for that as well. We are developing tools, we are developing a sandbox environment, we are developing a very, very robust certificate course, which will actually empower us. I don't know if you remember, recently a court ruling has come wherein they have rejected a report by a non-CA firm. A forensic report has been rejected by the High Court, the Honorable High Court rejected, saying that two things. One, they have not followed forensic accounting investigation standards. And second, they are a non-CA firm. They are not the right people to give us an assurance on a forensic audit. Now, these two are gonna really set up a huge benchmark for our chartered accountants. And this is our time now, friends, that we need to actually stand up, rise up, and probably be able to deliver at that expectations what the government, what the stakeholders expect from us. On these note, thank you very much for joining us here. I'm sure all our experts are ready. When they will talk and you will understand, they'll give a perspective of what are these standards, and probably we'll try and see how they will be used in our environment, in your individual environment. Let us hear if there are any concerns, and we'll be happy to try and give you a solution around that, and make sure that these standards become a part of our every audit toolkit. That's it from my end. Over to you, Ankur. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring address and sharing the initiatives of DAP. Now, to take the technical deliberations forward, I now invite Shri Harish Dua, sir, to kindly take over as a moderator of the session and lead the discussion along with the distinguished panel of experts. Over to you, Harish, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ankur. Kindly make me co-host. I'd like to share a small presentation to facilitate our discussion. And
Yeah, it's enabled, sir. You can.
I hope the screen is available to everyone, and you can see it on.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So great. So thank you very much, Ankur. Thank you very much, Chairman Sir and Vice Chairman Sir, for those inspiring words. And certainly sets the tone right in terms of what all we have to offer. And without much ado, I'd like to just quickly go through the few technical slides that we put together to provide an overview to our participants in terms of what we hope to cover today, which is basically we're just waiting for the keynote address from the President, Vice President, and then I will just give you a quick overview of the standards, and I would request Mr. Vittal sir to join us after that, my few minutes to provide an overview on the overarching documents. Then we have our panel of speakers covering each of the series of the standards. As you see on the screen, there are about 600 of six series covering in hundreds. And we will then look to wrap up the session with a quick discussion on the opportunities for the CAs. Basically, standards are something.
Just make it full screen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. So we've completed the opening addresses, and I will now jump to the overview of the standards. Basically, as you know, in any standard setting process, the standards are required because we wish to codify the best practices that are out there in dispersed form, bring it all together under one umbrella of the standards. They also help to clarify the expectations that are there and the attributes that are required to deliver on those expectations. They also do a lot of definition documentation because the terminology gets complex. And we all need to be singing from the same book when we are, working in unison. And these standards also set the basic quality benchmarks so that when a report that's been issued by one CA is read by the stakeholders, they have a similar expectation in terms of the quality of service being provided. They also, of course, harmonize and improve the performance of the professional performing the audit work. And in some ways, they also document and provide the knowledge and guidance that is required to complete the engagements. And of course, at the end of the day, they set the basic level of performance that's expected. And if that level doesn't get delivered, there is a mechanism of disciplinary action to make sure that the few that don't adhere to these standards have some way of getting disciplined. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the brand of ICAI is strong and going in terms of the work that's being delivered by our members. As far as the standards are concerned, Chairman Sir has already mentioned we have 11 standards, and there are 3 overarching documents that kind of set the tone for what these 11 standards are. There is one standard on key concepts, 110, which covers 5 topics that will be covered by Uday sir. Then there are 2 standards on the 200 series on engagement planning, and that will also get covered by Premnath sir. Then there are 2 standards on how the assignments are to be executed, which covers a few basic areas like planning, work procedures, review, supervision, and evidence documentation. Vijay sir will be covering that. And then there are 4 standards on certain specific areas which are somewhat technical in nature. And here we have 4 standards that have been exposed, and we will be requesting Anand sir to cover that. In the end, we have 2 additional standards on reporting and quality, which I will cover to wrap up the process. I now request Vittal sir to cover the overarching documents. And Vittal sir, I request you to let me know when you would like me to flip the slides. Over to you, Vittal
so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Harish sir. Good morning to everyone. I think the stage has been well set by the chairman and the vice chairman in terms of why these standards are there and what is exactly is it purposed with regard to. But to set the context and to give you a perspective of how these standards have been architected, this is the follows a very broad and very well tested architecture, which has also been used in the forensic standards as well and the internal audit standards. So it's we have the overarching documents which form the umbrella for the entire standard, and it provides those key pillars based upon which the very foundation of the confidence in the standard really lies. So if you see, you have the preface document, which kind of introduces the standard, but also very clearly outlines the authority of the institute. As you would know that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is a body formed under the Act of the Parliament, and you have the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, which is certainly part of the council's brainchild. And if you really see that the entire authority is vested with the DAB, as we call it, and the DAB under its authority has actually proposed to the council the promulgation of these standards, and that's exactly where the preface really comes in. We'll also look at the framework, which kind of sets the consistent structure of the ISAS. So we call it ISAS so that that's easier to understand what we are talking about, the information systems audit standards. Now it also defines certain key terms, because many terms have many different definitions across the globe. But it is very important that, especially when you as an audit professional or somebody receiving these audit services from any professional, should understand what exactly to expect around it and what is the common definition by which we should go. So there is need for also the common language, as we see, between the various stakeholders in the ecosystem. Then it also establishes a very clear, consistent structure for each and every standard to follow, so that everybody will know where to find what very easily. So that really will be a significant help to our professionals when they start the work on information systems audit using these standards. For any profession, there are certain basic principles which guide and govern the entire work of a professional. And similarly, we have also outlined the basic principles. Now, some of them could be repeated for a chartered accountant, because they do get covered as part of the ICAI's code of conduct. But the intent was, we are not restricting the ISAS to only be adopted by chartered accountants alone, even though it starts with that. In fact, it is open. That's an offering to the world from the Institute of Chartered Accountants India and the DAB to say that anybody looking at, they see that there is good, stuff in the standard, they would go ahead and adopting that in their institution or even in accounting bodies abroad. So there is a huge kind of opportunity around that. Sir, if you can help me with the next slide, please. Thank you. So primarily, if you see, look at our lives. Our values and principles is what drive whom we are. So principles are extremely important when we develop any standard. Those are the kind of the dots which plug all the, other linkages, rewire the entire thing. So that's exactly where you have the principles, which are very clearly outlined as part of the standard. And this is something which every professional ought to follow. So there is absolutely no compromise on that. So that's a kind of a mandate in terms of how the professionals' attributes and the performance are guided as such. So that is the foundation of those standards which you go forward and build upon. So ultimately, even if, let us say, we get lost in somewhere in the the content and the the busy the population of the standard, however, you would be able to very clearly say, I was supposed to be starting with getting this outcome, and that's where exactly it helps. So these standards, let us please understand, these are to start with mandated. Of course, we'll see for what they are mandated, but at the same time, while they define the what is expected of a professional, however, it would not detail into the how, because let us please understand, there have been certain questions, why didn't you cover the technical standards here? There are so much of technology there. Why didn't you cover each of these technologies? The purpose is not exactly that. The purpose is, let us please understand, the control gets embedded in whichever be the technology. So if you take artificial intelligence comes with own set of inherent risks. As a professional, it is important to find out that principle of control which needs to work there. And that's exactly how the what is described, whereas the hows will get a detailed explanation in the technology guides, which are more of recommendatory and not mandatory, because you as a professional have your own thinking to see how you really shape up to the requirements of your engagement as such. So there will be a lot of implementation guides and technical guides going forward, which I'm sure will bring in tremendous amount of energy to how exactly the work should be done, giving a lot of good explanation around that and helping our members to kickstart their career in this very important area of information systems audits. When it comes to the mandatory nature of the standards, of course, it is applicable to all members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and applicable to all information systems audit engagement done by our members. So if you really look at that, every professional today performing that will have a very clear understanding of this is what I'm supposed to do. It also equally empowers the auditee to understand what should I expect from a professional chartered accountant performing an information systems audit. So this is where I think the mandatory nature really helps to say that this is how we should go about doing our work with regard to whatever engagement that we are with. So next slide, sir. So coming to the framework and definitions, for anything, we require some, components which will drive the entire system in such a manner that the object is well achieved and also seen to be achieved. And that's exactly where the need for a framework really comes in. As you might see on the left-hand side, there is a graphic which clearly tells you that it starts with the definition of what is information systems audit. If you go to the right-hand side, we have taken this to define information systems audit, at least for the purposes of this standard, and possibly if the world agrees with it, we will see that this gets adopted globally. We could also learn from them and possibly also modify it as we go along. We are defining that as an audit related to the information systems. Now, there was this context of saying, why should not we use technology? Why should not we use cybersecurity? But if you really look at the larger perspective and the domains, information systems is what concerns business. And technology is what drives information systems. And the security component is what comes as a very important criteria for protecting the interests of the business. So that's exactly we went about calling this as an information systems audit standards. And then it also looks at associated systems. It could be operational technology today. It could be a whole lot of artificial intelligence, the big tech that's coming in. There's a whole lot of stuff that could be there, but all of them need to fall into the risks and controls matrix anyway. So that is where we define that as part of the effectiveness of the information systems controls and processes, so that there is predictability, consistency, and that the governance objectives are well being achieved when we use technology. Then it also defines, we're taken the thing to define the professional, because while, as we said, the chartered accountant obviously is somebody who would be guided by these standards, but it is also open largely to any professional who has reasonable qualifications and carries on the work as an information systems auditor. Now, today in the market, if you see, the big problem is that there are different domain experts who approach audits in different manners, and that creates a whole lot of problem with the regulators as well as with the recipients of the audit services. So this kind of sets in that, saying that an organization which employs a non-chartered accountant can insist, say that, no, please follow these standards, the information systems audit standards. So that brings in consistency in terms of benchmarking any work and also seeing that the expectations are met. As I said, go into the pillars, each of them, you have the basic principles which get defined, which I had mentioned about. There is a section on key concepts, which clearly clarifies on how to understand that, because there are a lot of things which we talk about very naturally, saying effectiveness, efficiency. Okay, we talk about a whole lot of technologies, but we don't understand the underlying concept. So it's very important that we have absolute clarity about what exactly is this particular concept meaning, or what does it do. The third is where we have the standards. And as I said, we'll be having the implementation guidance and the technical guides going forward. And all that sits, as you see, on the bedrock of Code of Ethics, which is the foundation for any profession as such. So when we talk about the structure of the standard, the framework also defines very, very clear structure of a 6-point sections, which will be discussed as part of each and every standard. So any standard you pick up across from ISAS, you will find them following this structure. So it becomes very easy for a professional or the recipient of the audit services to quickly go and find what they want. So if you can go to the next slide, please, sir. So coming to the basic principles, as I said, the principles are the kind of pointers which govern every aspect of our profession. So there are fundamentals, as we know, with regard to especially the role of a chartered accountant. And one of the most important things which is required in an audit profession is independence. And that comes not just by the institute setting the standard, but right from the law, which kind of regulate all chartered accountants. So independence comes in as one of the key elements. And today, if you see many of the systems audits, they lack independence because they could be done by entities which have various multiple interests. And that causes a problem both to the recipients of audit as well as the regulator. So this independence kind of clearly outlines that you've got to be independent of any other association with an enterprise that you're auditing. Then, of course, the most important thing that everybody is expecting across the system is, can you assure on the integrity and objectivity of how the engagement is performed? And that is where that builds the requirements or characteristics of integrity and objectivity into the professional. Due professional care. There is a need in technology for updating yourself as frequently as possible, because the technology, by the time you go to sleep and come back, has already changed. So that is where due professional care needs to be taken care of, to see that whatever you are auditing, you understand that well, and you've done a job which is consistent with the role of a professional and aligned with the information systems audit standard. Of course, needless to say, confidentiality of whatever is the information that we handle needs to be maintained at the highest order. We have now today the added dimension of privacy, which also comes in to say, there is a whole lot of responsibility among the chartered accountant to make sure they are also compliant with the DPDP Act. The skills and competence, as I told about, is a continuous journey where you keep on updating. An institute is doing a fantastic job. If you really look at the tech programs alone, they are phenomenal. And I think that's only going up as we see the graph today. There are also certain performance expectations. One of the key things that we have identified, which many of the standards do speak about, but we wanted to make it very explicit, is there has to be a view of business IT aligned context. Because ultimately, why are we doing an information systems audit? It is not for tech's sake. It is for the business sake. So unless and until the professional doing the audit understands business very well, understands the context of business, which is the laws, regulations, and the associated technology very well, there is no question of really auditing it properly. And that's exactly where that brings into the very important need of a chartered accountant who are already experts in understanding of the business, understanding of finance and accounts, understanding of risk management and internal controls. And that puts in the alignment with regard to saying, okay, when I'm looking at the technology, as I always say, I would think that all of us going forward should think technology, breathe business risk and controls, and do audit. And that's what typically is what is required when we say aligned business IT context. And the reports cannot be something which the top management fails to understand. It's too jargonish. That is where it is important to bring in the very clear business context to say, this is what you need to worry about, and this is the actionable that you need to do. And that's exactly where these reports will help to either identify as part of statutory information systems audit the gaps, or also help them to plug that as part of internal information systems audits as such. Then you have the systematic engagement performance. So you have a very consistent way, any auditor doing the work, this is the way she would go about doing that. Then, of course, as I said, effective communication to make sure that whatever we communicate, especially when we are using technology, is something which is understandable from a business technology context, on not a pure tech context. Last but not the least is the quality and the continuous improvement aspects, which are of course very important to any profession, more so in information systems audit, because there are lots of gaps which open up, which seem to be never there, but were always there, but not really exploited. And that's where really the future starts getting muddled. So that is where these are some of the performance aspects that also come in. So I'm done. I think we have any more slides? I guess not. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Oh, back to you, Harish sir.
Thank you very much, Vittal Raj sir. And I would like to now take the opportunity to thank sir for performing a very pivotal role in this whole project, from starting point where he sowed the seeds for getting us kicked off, and along the way being the key technical expert in this whole process. Thank you so much, Vittal Raj.
Thank you, sir. My privilege. My privilege. Thank you, sir.
I now request Uday Kulkarni sir to give us a quick overview on the key concepts, the 100 series of standards.
Okay, thank you very much, Harish sir, and thanks the chairman sir, vice chairman sir, and Vittal sir for all the wisdom of words what you have delivered so far. And what a year to start with. This is a remarkable beginning of the 2026, because 2025 gave us a lot of things in the digital arena. The digital trust, the digital ecosystems with the artificial intelligence, and the journey has started on that way. And a lot of integration is happening with this artificial intelligence, and the digital trust is required more because whatever is the outcome which is coming or delivered by the digital system, that needs to be trustworthy. The standards, information systems audit standards, is a step ahead to provide that digital trust to the various stakeholders. And for that purposes, this information system audit standard globally will have an impact on that. If you can see, as Harish sir and Vittal sir has already discussed, there is a flow which is kept for these standards. If you now looking at the screen is talking about the key concepts, and that is the 100 series. You can see the first standard in this sixth series of the standards. The key concepts that is originating from the framework, and of course that is embedded in the basic principle. If you remember in the earlier slide, Vittal sir has rightly discussed the definition of the information system audit. If you remember in that audit definition, there was one requirement that information system audit should able to provide the assurance, independent assurance. Independence is the principle, but the assurance is the key concept which has been coming out of that definition. And of course, any audit, the audit requires to provide some kind of an assurance. And before starting off any kind of an audit, whether it be the external audit, internal audit, or even this is the information system audit, the professional has to understand the key concepts. And I can say this first series, 100 series of this standard, is the prerequisite not only for the professional, but for all the key stakeholders who are expecting something out of these standards, right? So the definition says that the professional shall be able to provide an independent assurance. Now, what is that assurance? What is the concept of assurance? That is definitely need to be understood by every professional and also by the key stakeholders. Of course, the assurance is what is the ultimate outcome of the audit process. But there are different types of the assurances according to which the engagement needs to be adopted, accepted, and the scope needs to be defined for that purposes. As you can see, the different types of the assurances, there could be the reasonable assurance, there could be the limited kind of an assurance, there could be the attestation functions or the agreed upon procedures, and even the no assurance kind of an thing. That means we are not providing, professionals are not providing any type of the assurance, but they are providing some kind of an advisory or the consultancy kind of services. Right. So before accepting of the any of the engagement, the professional as well as the auditee, both of them should be have understanding about what they are expecting, whether they are expecting the reasonable assurance, they are expecting the attestation work, or whether they are expecting the agreed upon procedure. So that is what is required to be understood. And the first key concept is directly related to our definition of the information audit, right? So that is the origination of this concept. Now we all know the word, the total globe is expecting the GRC. That is the buzzword in the word. That is governance, risk, and control, GRC. And the GRC itself is having a lot of opportunities, right? And if you see, we all chartered accountants, we know about the corporate governance. But the information system governance, even if it could be the subset of this larger corporate governance, but the information system governance, understanding of the information system governance is must for performing the information system audit. Now, even within the information system governance, you can find further subset. Now, there could be the governance for the cybersecurity purposes, and that is coming out of the NIST framework, that is coming out of the various regulators, cybersecurity related frameworks. They are also expecting that there should be governance part. Even the Data Protection Act, which is now coming up, it is expecting the data protection related governance. Even the artificial intelligence, which could be the integration with the existing information system, it also requires the governance of the artificial intelligence, right? So governance is basically decides. They are the decision makers. Governance comes with the top management, with the board of directors. Those are the leaders. They defined the organization structure. They took the strategic decisions, and they are the persons who decide how to integrate, how to deploy this information technology or information system for the achievement of the business objective. So there must be a perfect mapping of the business objective and the embeddation of these information systems within the organization. And that is what the IS auditor should also understand. Whenever the governance we are talking about, always one of the important aspect of the governance that they should also carry out the risk management, right? It is the first responsibility of the top leaders. It is the responsibility of the management to go for this risk management. There is an overall risk management, as well as there could be the risk management with the implementation of the information. So it comes from the identification of the risk, its assessment, what could be the impact, how it is going to impact the businesses also, how it is going to impact the technology support also. So all this life cycle of the risk management is the first responsibility of the management. But of course, before starting of the audit, the information system auditor also has to carry out how the governance, how the top management has done their job for assessing the risk of the information systems. And once the top management or the board of directors has done their job by identification the risk, by assessing the risk, then of course the next step what the system auditor is expect that what are those information system controls which are implemented to mitigate that risk. So it could be anything. It could be for acceptance of the risk. It could be for transference or transfer of the risk, right? Or to mitigate the risk in any form of the controls. So the information system controls, which controls they have implemented, and what is the effectiveness of those controls, that needs to be assessed by the information system auditor. The second thing is that whenever the compliance, whenever the controls, whatever we are talking about, we need to understand that the compliances with the rules, regulations, and the legal provisions is also a part of the governance and is also expected by the controls. Various responsibilities are there, various provisions are upcoming from these laws and regulation, and which is all the part of these controls or the governance. And whenever we are providing an assurance about the information systems, we need to understand that which are those laws, which are those regulations which are going to be impacted, and how the information system, how the information technology has considered the impact of these laws and regulations, and how the business processes are aligned so that the compliances of these laws and regulations can be ensured. Sir, can you please go with the next slide, please? So what is the essence of this key concept? Why this understanding of the key concept is essential for the information system auditor? As I already told you, that the information system auditor's prerequisite is understanding of the concept. Why it is required? Because it is a common conceptual foundation. So this standard is required to be followed by all those professionals who are going to conduct the information system audit. So whether I am doing the information system audit or anyone else is doing the information systems audit, they should have the common understanding about this concept. They should have understanding about what the governance, why the governance understanding is required. Because with the maturity of the governance, so when you will assess whether the governance is well structured, whether the IT governance is well defined, whether the expected committees, whether it could be the IT security committee, IT strategy committee, and all the strategic business goals have been mapped, aligned with the information technology. On that basis, the information system auditor can assess the maturity of the governance. Once the assessment will be done, that will boost the confidence. So you can find out whether that organization is well matured with the governance or it is not matured with the governance. Of course, there could be multiple steps into that. And according to that, you can develop your plan of the audit. You can develop your depth for the coverage of the audit. And that gives you the understanding about the information system audit scope. Of course, at that time, when we are defining the information system audit scope, we first need to understand what is the nature of assurance the professional has to provide for that. As we have discussed already, whether it is a reasonable assurance, if we are conducting only the VAPT kind of an audit, so it is an agreed upon procedure kind of an assurance which we are going to provide, right? So what type of assurance we are going to provide, that needs to be very much clear about that. Whether somebody is expecting that, okay, I want to just have the auditor's opinion about whether the whatever be the cybersecurity framework which is issued by the Reserve Bank of India, whether an organization is complying with that cybersecurity framework. So that kind of an assurance is different from the agreed upon procedure kind of a thing, right? So what kind of an assurance we are going to provide? So we should have that understanding, and on that basis, we should be able to go look upon the governance. Because even if you see for the cybersecurity framework, which is issued by the RBI, or even if you go to the largest perspective from the global side, NIST is also expecting that there should be the governance first for the implementation of the cybersecurity, right? So on that background, what the governance is existence in our organization where we are going to perform the audit. So that is the starting point. That is the assessment. If governance is well matured, then you can see that they might have considered the risk cycle. They might have considered the appropriate controls would be placed. So that will define the coverage of your IS audit, and that will also define your audit scope. And of course, in every regulations now they are giving a major thrust upon the governance side, because governance is giving the directions which they are aligning the businesses business requirements with the information technology. Of course, that is also true for the artificial intelligence also. So these are the common things which will give the confidence. This will be the first prerequisite steps which the information system auditor has to conduct, and for that purposes the understanding of these key concepts are very much required. We all know that in practical cases now, whether let us say that many of the organizations are now tilting towards the artificial intelligence. So let's say in the banks now they have started the loan appraisal process with the help of the artificial intelligence. Now at the governance level, they might have taken the decision, yes, our bank is now going to take the help of the artificial intelligence to process the loan credit or the credit appraisal process. In that case, what risk they have assessed, what could be the benefits they have assessed, for the mitigation of the risk, what controls they have embedded into that. and what are the regulatory expectations when any compliance is, because if you see on the November 20th, 2025, the Reserve Bank of India has come out around 250 various master directions. And in that master direction, they have also considered the impact of this information technology on the various aspects of the banking sector. Similarly, when we as a chartered accountants are going for the external audit purposes, even we need to understand that financial statement. What is financial statement? From where it is getting generated? What is the database for that? What is the control on that database? How much possibility that the database could be get tampered? And for that purposes, we are expecting some controls. But to controls to be implemented, there must be first the risk assessment. To assess the risk, there must be some matured governance level. So all these are in line, aligned with itself. And for that purposes, if whether we are information system auditor or within the external audit or within the internal audit, because all the business processes are now equipped or well defined within the information technology. So there is a minimum manual internal controls, but most of the controls are embedded in the information system or information technology itself. So effectiveness of those information technology controls, whether it could be the ITGC, application controls, security controls, all that things needs to be understood. But for that purpose, the clarity of this concept is very much essential, and that is what is we have provided with this first standard, which is the base one for the next level of the standards. So thank you very much for this interaction. Thank you, Harish sir, for this next slide.
Thank you very much, Uday Kulkarni sir. And I wish to take the opportunity to just point out how Uday sir has been involved with us right from the beginning of the projects. In fact, earlier than that, he was involved with the forensic standards, and he in fact plays a very much of a broad role and also has very in-depth knowledge of the legal aspects that has been a big contributor in that area as well. So thank you very much, Uday sir. I now move on to this 200 series on engagement planning, for which I request Premnath sir to join us and give us an overview of the 200 series. Premnath sir.
Right. Thank you very much. At the outset, I thank ICI and DOC for giving me this fantastic opportunity, a milestone in my life for getting involved in this marvelous marathon of drawing these standards, global standards. So let's start with the cause and effect. A poor business context understanding, which is as per the ISAS 210, will lead to misaligned risk assessment, which is again linked to ISAS 110 and 220, which will cause inadequate evidence gathering, which is again linked to ISAS 320. So which results in weak reporting, again ISAS 510. So quality review flags, it again results in quality review flags as per ISAS 610. So what we are trying to understand with this cause and effect is, if root cause isn't understood properly, it cycles back with the same business context weakness and it goes on. So to take up, to make it more interesting and to gel with the subject, I'll take up the recent case, which is widely available in the public domain on the insurance case, where we all know that 31 million datas are on the public platform today. So from that perspective, I would like to take up this discussion. So today what I would like to say is how most expensive audit failures don't happen during the testing or reporting, but they happen right here in the planning. So what I say is, planning is bringing the future into the present, so you can do something about it now. So poor planning, as per ISAS 200 series, created cascading failures across the entire audit which I'm referring to that well-noted insurance failure. This is not theoretical. This happened very recently. The insurance company, which is well known to everyone, I'm not trying to name here. A clean audit report for the past 3 years. Every year, auditors may be copy paste. You can just retain the slides, sir. Then I'll take some time to explain this, sir. You can just go back to this. Thank you, sir. So the clean audit reports for 3 years, every year auditors may be copy pasting planning from previous year. Every year they said no major changes while company informing digitally. So the ex-CTO who has leaked the data, which is as per the public domain, he retained access for 18 months, meaning that privilege access management, the PAM control failure, but PAM was never in the audit scope because planning never identified it as a risk. When police arrested him, they found that he had been downloading records for 6 months before creating the Telegram bot. 6 months of undetected exfiltration. Why no SIEM or no data loss prevention, no monitoring? None of this were in the audit scope. Why aren't they been in the scope? So for that, we have to go dive deep into ISAS 210 context analysis, where was never done because ISAS planning was a copy paste, wherein the audit cost was 5,000, the breach costing is around 20,000 because ineffective planning. What is effective planning is with a business context and IS context, mandatory steps to be taken care of. Few questions needs to be asked as per this ISAS 210. Am I aware of the sector specific risks? Like say, for example, there are so many sectors like BFSI. The earlier sir was talking about the regulatory thing. Healthcare as a regulatories, banking, RBI, healthcare, IRDA, whatnot, the MSME sector. So many sectors have their own. And what data sensitive, public or internal or confidential category are we talking about? What regulators are we talking about? RBI, SEBI, IRDA is what the business and IS context is being covered in IS 210. What penalties for non-compliances? Are we covering IS universe mapping? Obtain IS architecture diagram, list of all applications that doesn't standard ERP, or count APIs in the case that referred to the insurance. Earlier they were having 50 and now it has increased drastically to 200 in 1 year to the next year. And there is a 30% increase in the IS budget spent out. But whether that universe is mapped into the scope. So mapping of third-party integrations like 14,000 hospitals were integrated during the year. The scope has enlarged. Did I increase my scope, understanding the risks of it with IS universe is what has to be right scope. And do I have a right resources like business IT dependency analysis? What happens if IS fails for 1 hour? What's the recovery time objective? What automated that was manually 2 years transfer, digital transformation, what was happening? Did I consider it? What data flows to the regulator automatically? Compliance automation requirement. So the transformation triggers is the regulator has changed in the last 12 months that the DPDP has come, RBI guidelines, IRDA, certain, so many things have changed, or M&A, mergers and acquisition activity has taken out where the new system got integrated, where a cloud architecture is migrated, digital transformation programming where new technologies have come into, then leadership change in the IT, a new CTO or CISO is into this. So then the client needs to answer to this. Is budget increased by 30% year on year? Then recent cybersecurity incidents, regulatory enforcement actions, rapid headcount growth in IT. These are all I'm talking about to sit with this in the audit plan, understand it. So don't accept any IS audit engagements without going through the checklist. Notice it's not recommended, it is mandatory as per the ISAs. The sector risk assessment is not nice to have, but 3.1, para 3.1 of IS 210 requires it. This risk is workshop and not an optional, meaning that the assessment of risk is not a one-way traffic. It is kind of a thing. Both the management and the auditor has to carry out this process and agree upon the scope. And if there is a scope limitation, then it has to be brought out into the reporting. Risk assess, it's not a email kind of exchanging that this is what I'm going to do it. It's a workshop kind of a thing, risk assessment workshop, where CTO, CISO, and CFO and audit committee chairman have to spend a minimum amount of time into this. This is what I'm talking about, the risk right scope. And as a part of right scope also, we'll also be trying to understand what technology complex rating we have, what team expertise I have. Say, for example, technology complex rating is 1 to 5 scale, and team expertise rating is between 1 and 5. If technology complexity is 5 and the team expertise is 1, the gap is more than 1. So there I need an expert required. Now I'm talking about the right resources. And if I doesn't have a right resources, am I going for an expert into that is the right methodology assess. And in the process of understanding the complexities, whether the APIs with OAuth, OIDC, and blockchain implementation, AI ML model security, cloud narrative, OTISC, SAP migration, so on and so on, is taken into the competency. Now the scope definition starts based on all this, where start with IS, complete IS universe, risk rate each component, all critical and high must be scoped into it. So is there a formula for risk allocation, that the right resource formula allocation? Like say, for example, how many audit hours, the number of critical systems into say, for example, 16 hours, or high risk systems into 8 hours, say, for example, or a medium risk into 4, say, for example. Now that is the audit number of hours, plus 40% for planning and reporting, plus 20% for buffer and unknown. If all this number of hours, is it within the budget? If the management says that this is not within the budget, it's a scope limitation which has to be brought into the reporting. So document everything into it. So IS 200, IS 200 is not just one standard. It's two interdependent standards. Think of them as a foundation and blueprint. And IS 220 tells you what you're dealing with, and IS 220 tells you how you deal with it. If you skip either one and your entire audit is built on a stand, notice statistics, we spend at least 30 to 40% of our time on the audit effort in planning. The firm planning, that's a good ratio. But the firms that spend less than 10% lands up in disaster. So this is a death spiral that it starts with a simple shortcut in IS 220, treating every client as generic, that leads to a template-based planning in IS 220, which leads to testing the wrong things in IS 330, and then what I've already stated in my opening remark. So IS 220 is not about filling a form, it's detective work. 220 is a detective work. When you're auditing, say, a health insurance company, you need to understand the patient medical record. That is what, again, I'm going back to the scope. It's a data, it's just not a data. They are data, special category data under DPDP. If any breach, 250 crore penalty, auditor just wrote insurance company with standard. They might miss the 200 plus API were processing cancer diagnosis, HIV, then mental health records are 24/7. This is not standard. This is a mission critical, highest risk, requires specialist expertise territory. So what is 210 requires is business dynamic, legal structure and governance, as sir was talking about, Uday sir was mentioning, industry sector and risk, unique risks, that's what controls come out this, geographic presence and regulation, business operation and dependency, recent transformation, which I've already referred to into this. So in this way, the next comes into, sir, the next slide, please, sir. So once you look into what I've been talking about before I end up, planning, then business context is what I'm talking about. Say, for example, it's a health or an insurance or a banking or aviation or automotives or anything it is, where a special map to that and then link the integrations and all what if would have been done. Then if risk-based scope, engage API expert, include PAM audit scope, board briefing, involve the governance and all, then breach could have been prevented. Because these are not done, 31 million records leaked, and then the penalties were into it. Before I close, I'll just sum up this. So IS Universe mapping complete inventory of systems, data flow and architecture, third-party integration, technology stack and dependencies, combined context evaluation, that business IT alignment analysis, impact of IS and business objectives, identify conflict, speed versus security. The 200 APIs were used to ensure that the health insurance, which the subject matter, what we are discussing here, they wanted to process the claims within 30 minutes the moment it lands. That is where their objective was speed, but the security was compromised. And this is what should have been into the scope, understand the risk out of this. So before we go into this, then again, every assessment, every engagement assessment, if you are asking, the SA 210 says, it's designed to say that every engagement before I take up was what's unique about the sector, maybe health, insurance or whatever. What data do they process requires highest protection? What would make headlines if it is leaked? Who has access to this crown jewels that the CTO has accessed and sold it in the open market? What's the change since the last audit? So the SA 220 is where the converts intelligence into action plan. Notice the word workshop, not an email. That's what I've said in the earlier thing. And finally, I say before I close, planning is, as I said, planning is bringing the future into present. So you can do something about it now. So ISAS 200 is bringing about risk into planning. So you can prevent disaster before they happen. Thank you very much for your patience. And thanks for the opportunity, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Premnath Digala, sir. I really appreciate your overview on the planning phase and how risk is very important as part of that. Want to take the opportunity to thank you for providing your really invaluable inputs along the process, along the whole project, and not just this 200 series. And with your in-depth knowledge, we have been very highly benefited by your inputs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I now move on to the 300 series on executing assignments. This is basically taking one engagement and breaking it up into various assignments and executing each one of them in a very laser focused manner, for which I now invite Vijay Srinivas sir to provide us an overview of the 300 series. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, Harish sir. Thank you very much. And let me take a couple of seconds to thank the leadership of ICAI and the leadership of DAB and the team of DAB, along with the advisors who has made this particular day possible and these particular standards being released in such a quick time. And of course, thanks to all the teammates, both online and offline, for all the contributions they have done. Yeah, coming back to this particular series, we have two standards in this ISAS, let's call it as ISAS 310 and 320. ISAS 310 assignment execution, where it also speaks about planning. We need to differentiate one with the ISAS 220, where we're also doing the planning. We need to understand that there ISAS 220 speaks about the overall IS audit engagement, whereas ISAS 310 speaks about the specific assignment. Let's say, for example, if I take up a bank audit, 220 might be speaking about the entire system process to be audited, the priorities, the scope, the use of experts and all that. Within that, if I have to speak about the specific system like LOS or CBS, ITGC, okay, all these will be coming under this ISAS 310, where I'll be splitting into assignment. And again, within that, there might be certain like VAPT assignment being handed over to someone, a third-party audit being handed over to someone. Likewise, so multiple assignments will come from a single engagement. So this ISAS 310 exclusively speaks about those specific assignments, how you need to plan and how you need to execute and what are the outputs you are expected out of it. So this is where the simple comparative what you can make from the ISAS 220 versus 310. Now, coming to this particular T10 exclusively, if I have to mention, following the same structure, it prescribes the disciplined approach about executing an IS audit engagement, which aligns with the objective. So main important aspect is, though it looks like an independent standard, every time you need to connect with the main engagement objective, because let's say, for example, someone has provided me a third-party audit to be performed, and I'm following this ISAS 310. Before I execute this thing, I need to see whether it is within the objectives of the engagements. That's where I'll be having the communication with the person or the engagement partner who has assigned this particular task to me. So it has to be overall within that particular engagement objective. So that's where the prescription in ISAS 310 speaks about the connecting aspect of the engagement objective. And secondly, it also speaks about the documented programming. Like, say, for example, what kind of defined procedures to be identified, there is all those things. So I need to have a documented procedure, because ultimately, when we speak about these standards while doing planning and all, I need to again demonstrate the way I planned this assignment execution, the way I've performed these audit procedures, the way I've applied my professional skepticism, and the way I've reviewed and supervised. So all these things has to be demonstrated for ourselves internally, and also for the third party or the regulators who questions these particular procedures. So that's where that is also being addressed by this ISAS, and also emphasizes more on the professional skepticism in line with the fundamental principles of ethics, and also ensures that there is a continuous review and supervision mechanism. And it also mandates certain execution procedures, such as planning at the assignment level, within, of course, justified and approved deviations, if any. Because let's say if something has been defined in a particular scope of an assignment, and while performing, let's take up a third-party audit, wherein, let's say, I'm doing this physical and environmental audit, and within that, there are certain areas where there are an exception which has to be excluded as per the scope. So just because my assignment speaks about third-party audit covering all that, it doesn't have to be implying that particular thing. I need to see whether the objective is within that particular scope, communicate with the scope whether it is falling within that, and take and approve deviations, which again I have to document what are the deviations, what are the exclusions of the scope within the assignment. So these are all the things which is again spoken by this ISAS 310. And finally, it also ensures that the audit work, whatever we have completed from the assignment level, it is reliable, it's a consistent, and more importantly, it's a defensible for the audit conclusions what I make. Because these audit assignment execution, what you take, again, will go into the parent, that is the engagement aspect. And there, the comfort for the engagement partner also to be given, saying that the executions, whatever I've made, the procedures, whatever made, are being part of the defensible audit conclusions, what he's going to report to the main entity, the auditee, or any regulator, whatever it is. So that's where the ISAS 310 speaks about. Coming to the ISAS 320, probably we can just move to the next slide, sir, the conclusive slide, and also sum up the entire thing. Hari sir, we'll move to the next slide. Yeah. So though it's part of the 300 series, for saying that every time I have to revisit or recompare the scope, every time I execute something, while executing, while drawing a conclusion, I again have to connect back whether the planning execution has been matching and all. So that's where these are falling in the same series of 300. Okay, this has to be reviewed every now and then till the audit conclusion has been drawn. So coming to ISAS 320, the beauty of this is, apart from our parent standards, what ICA has given in terms of audit documentation and all, this being an exclusive domain, which speaks about various things like digital artifacts which are generated by the machine, or it speaks about evidences, considering the DPDPA, the kind of evidences what I can capture or cannot capture. So there are a lot much of sensitivity involved while capturing these evidences and all. So this ISAS 320 exclusively covers those kind of aspects where it defines what exactly is a sufficient, appropriate, and a reliable audit evidence means. Okay, so there I may not say acceptable, for a reason that my IS audit is different from AUP. So there it speaks about more of sufficient, appropriate, reliable. So this ISAS 320 speaks about those aspects where it matches with these expectations. And also, it also mentions about the linkage of these evidences in a clear way to the audit objectives and the procedures performed and the conclusion trees. So this cycle has to be properly followed. That's where the ISAS 320 requirements also defines about. And as I was mentioning, it covers the digital evidence and artifacts including logs, reports, screenshots, total outputs. Say, for example, if I have to refer to one illustration, which I've also displayed on the screen, it speaks about the way digital artifact has to be sourced from a trustworthy IT systems, having an integrity, authenticity, and more importantly, the professional shall maintain the consistency across artifacts what he is covering. The timestamps, correlating log entries. It's not like I can work out as a silos. Okay, I can't say that SIEM log, I'm not trying to map with the acceptable usage policy. So it has to be in line. The methodology what I follow when it comes to digital artifact, it should be in consistent across. So this ISAS 320 also speaks about those kind of requirements, and it has given a beautiful illustrations or examples, explanation basically how you can understand that particular digital life. It also speaks about the digital artifact life cycle. Like say, for example, the sequential of processing of identifying, collecting, preserving, analyzing, purging, all these aspects of the digital artifact while maintaining the integrity and relevance. And it also mandates a clear and complete reproducible documentation, because when we speak about chain of custody and all that stuff, especially when it comes to digital artifact, it has to match with the regulatory or the judiciary expectations as well. So this evidence not only complies with the standard in a way a professional can execute his assignment, it also matches with the expectation what a judiciary would have if in case it has been produced as an evidence. So that's also one of the aspect this particular standard covers, including, I mean, it sometimes says that probably if an independent reperformance is done, whether he is going to get the similar kind of evidences, if not, what are the gaps? So these kind of testing is possible through this ISAS 320. And more importantly, it strengthens the defensibility and the credibility of the IS audit findings. Because I might follow certain audit procedure, which might be giving comfort for my audit conclusion, but may not be satisfactory enough or sufficient enough for a judiciary to agree with your conclusion. So that is where this ISAS 320 provides a clear requirements in a way that you can have a foolproof system of strengthening the defensibility and the credibility of the IS audit findings, whatever you make. Okay. This is the beauty of this ISAS 320. And this is considered to be one of the little more largest kind of maybe having around 15, 16 pages kind of thing. But yes, considering that it has to accommodate the documentation aspect of the evidence collection and also the digital artifact, digital evidences, whatever we collect. Evidences from normal perspective is different from the digital evidence what we collect. The kind of chain of custody what we have from the physical documents is different from the chain of custody of digital evidence and the digital artifacts. So this is all aspects have been properly covered by this ISAS 320, where it speaks about the requirements and the explanation. So that's about the entire series of ISAS 300, where it has these two standards. What I can probably share is, if in case, because now this is exposure draft is pretty much available for the intellectuals or the professional, what you can do is check whether you can apply the same on the past audits what you have completed. You can probably take the help of GPT or whatever. See how this particular standard is throwing up the output on those earlier what you have concluded the audits. Okay, so the kind of insights what you are going to get are the learnings, and these might be the standards which will help you complete the standard, audit in the future also. So maybe you can take up this as a small assignment where you take this standard, help it on the past audit what you have concluded, and see what are the different conclusions where you are able to draw and what kind of additional evidences you are able to create by following this particular ISAS 300 series. Yeah. So that's from my side. I'll come back once the moderator calls back. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Vijay Srinivas sir, for your clear explanation of the assignments and engagement and how evidence and documentation is critical. We now move on to the next area, the 400 series. Kind of running a little behind schedule, but this is in fact one of the most important sections. So I wouldn't necessarily want to shortchange this. I would like to now invite Anand sir to Jingit sir to please give us an overview of the 400 series.
Sure, Harish sir. Thank you very much. Friends, in 400 series, as the name it talks about, these are all specific areas. Basically, whatever we have been talking about so far applies to each of the engagement in general. But now from 410, 420, 430 and 440, what we are trying to do is we are actually getting the specific areas of IS audit. And one of the important thing which we need to understand here is each of these areas are actually taking it from their perspective. Like for example, 410 talks about audit of IS control. And here, one of the things which most of us we already are aware of, but it has not been codified, is on the topic of IT general controls and IT application controls. Understanding of service organization controls and others have been put into place. Now, those standards have considered one very important thing, and I'll keep it very short because it's more from awareness perspective. I would like all the professionals to understand this one. This areas has for the first time codified as one point where we are trying to talk about that there is one area which is IT general controls. I'll actually also talk about that in some time. But the term is very important because we say it's applicable, all the controls which are applicable to IT environment in general, which is means, you know, your hardware, software, network, your databases, people, all of the things. There are something which is required out there, like physical access control, logical access control, change management, configuration management, and all of the things. And then one area which is very, very close to the heart of most of the chartered accountant is on the application control, application reviews and other things. So that is something which we cover in 410. I'll take more detail in the next slide. Then we have 420, which talks about new terminology also, because this is something very interesting. We have, we are taking it more to see the standards are futuristic. We are talking about ATTs, which is nothing but automated tools and techniques. As we see, as we are moving about, a lot of tools will be used in IS audit. There are also use of AI, which is coming into picture. There are use of machine learning and other things. Now, when we are doing it, it will enhance the quality and efficiency of audit. But on the same side, what are the controls, governance, which is needed? We are trying to see out here. 430 is something which is talks about digital personal data protection. And here we need to see the whole, life cycle of data. We need to see the internal control structures, how the compliances has to be done to the legal and regulatory requirement. And 440 is actually a little
Yes,
coming at one
typo. Sorry, my apologies.
Yes, no problem. It's actually more to do a kind of safeguard on information, cyber security. Now, a lot of people also, we had a lot of debates also in that is it cybersecurity not covered in ITGC somehow or other thing? But it was actually discussed that the terminology which is there in cybersecurity reviews are a little different. So we have actually tried to deal with that in terms of the need to safeguard information system and data from the threats which can come into that, and how do we deal with that. I will request Hari sir to go to the next slide, where I try to explain a little more on 410. ISAS 410 actually, as it talks about the audit processes. So I just thought, what are the main 4 or 5 things which we should actually know about? Because I'm sure as professionals, all of you will be going through all of the exposure draft and also try to give you a comment on that. But the first part, as I told, is on ITGC testing. How do we evaluate all the pervasive controls and what we try to do with that? That is one of the areas which has come out very well in the standard and which we need to consider out there. And second, which we all again talk about, the application control testing, how the testing of automated controls has to be done. And here, the business applications which we are talking about has to be taken into perspective of all the areas which we work on. One areas which, as chartered accountants, we have not considered more is service organization controls. We have SA 402, where we talk about service organizations. So assessing the control at third-party service provider is something which is very important. And I would say, that is one area we are looking that professional make use of. I would request you to comment on that area also, because if we can't do that, we will be missing out on a bigger opportunity where right now it is more of a fragmented way how information systems are managed in large enterprises. And their service or providers are something which are important. Third-party risk management and other thing has to be looked into. And risk assessment is something which is again coming up on prioritizing the risk and everything and taking it forward. But more or less, I would say there are some very interesting approach which we have tried to take it in a standard. And when you as a professional go through it, you will actually appreciate it up that the understanding has been brought in a very, very, I would say, a kind of a packaged manner there, where we have considered everything which can happen in an enterprise and taken it forward. So this is the essence. Very quickly, I wanted to keep it up on 410. On the 420, here we are talking about, one of the terminology, personally, I also like it a lot, is ATT. This is, I think, thanks to Harish ji and everyone who has come across and, defined these new terms which are there. ATTs are something which we are trying to talk about in terms of what is the purpose. We have to improve the audit quality, and we have to have a standard which is more futuristic in approach. So how do we establish governance for that? How do we make sure that the accuracy of the tool, and there is a term which is very important, which we have considered in the standard, is reproducibility, which means if you use as an IS auditor this tool or techniques and you get a result, anyone else also tries to do the same step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that professionals should also get the same result. How do we ensure that happen? That is something which is very, the essence of ISS 420. That is something which we need to look into that. Skepticism, competition, risk, that is something which is very standard, so I'll not go into that. And ISS 430, friends, is the next one which Harish ji has put it up. That is something, right now we have DPDP Act and other things, and there are a lot of discussion on privacy. We wanted to keep it a little global perspective out here. So we are talking about digital personal data protection, how professionals can actually understand the complete life cycle, which means assessing control through the data life cycle, how the data is captured till it is disposed of, end to end of the PII. We are trying to look into that and take it up. That also, because there are different legal legal laws, we wanted to make sure that do we have the understanding of the legal provisions out there and the adherence to be met to that. Also, individual rights, for the data, the right to forget and other things has to be also considered by the auditor. And the last one, which is there is reviewing the SLAs and the controls which are there. IS 440, that is the last specific standard. I wanted to keep it very short and wanted to make sure that we do understand that. Is, I would say we have tried to divide it between two main things. What is the focus and what is the assessment which is due? So the purpose and things which is there is here, cyber resilience and the risk management is the key thing. We have all seen the SEBI, cybersecurity framework. RBI has master circular which are coming on that. Regulators are all asking about that. They want to, see control across identification, protection and detection, responding and recovering of that thing. And that is something which is very, very important for us to understand that. Some of the key requirements which are there is on asset protection. It's on making sure what are the protective controls we can put it up that and how do we take care of that. So thereas in the standard, we have tried to talk about areas like incident response, multi-factor authentication, encryptions, and other things which comes into picture. And then a good understanding of this is needed by the professionals also. And there are some explanations which has been put out of that in terms of a very important term I would like you all to notice is RAM, risk aligned audit methodology. This is like a little different from what we all learned as risk-based audits and other things which we have done about. I would request you to go through the exposure draft, understand it up. Risk-aligned audit methodologies are the new way of doing a very, very impactful engagement. And understanding that is something which is clear from a perspective of that. So this is how do we focus on the relevant threats, extend the complete resilience framework out there and take that forward. So friend, these 4 are specific sections as Harish sir and all my previous speakers were all talking about. These are the standards which are now bringing up specific areas, and we would love to have your comments on the same. Over to you.
Thank you, Anand Jagit sir, for appreciate all your inputs. I now pass over the mic to Daya sir.
Yes, Harishji, thank you very much. Thank you all the 4 speakers earlier. But I think a long-awaited thing, our Honorable President of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has joined today. And along with my Vice Chairman and you all people, I welcome the President for joining us on a very eventful day, which is his birthday today. So we actually aligned this entire global webinar, keeping in alignment of his birthday. And he's been the past chairman of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. And fortunately, I worked under him as a vice chairman as well. So friends, a long-awaited discussion. We completed 400 series and 2 more 100 series, 500 and 600 are there, which are very short, but I want you to continue so that you have a complete glance. Can I request President Sir to join us? President Sir? Ankur, Amit?
A very good morning, Daya ji, Arpit ji. I can see Dua Saab, I can see Ankur Kherwal, I can see Vijay Kumar ji, I can see Amit Gupta ji, I can see Vittal Saab, and all my dear friends who are present here to go home more enlightened. Let me very
First of all,
candidly tell you,
Sir,
Ji,
first
ji.
of all, many happy returns of the day, sir, from
Thank
all
you,
of us.
thank you so much.
Happy
Sir,
birthday,
many,
sir.
many happy returns of the day.
Thank you, thank you. Your wishes mean a lot to me. I'm really thankful for your kind wishes.
Sir,
And I start my note with wishing you all a very happy and prosperous New Year 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly an honor to come and speak. I'm sorry I couldn't come at 11 o'clock because I'm in Amritsar, I had gone to the Gurudwara. So I'm truly honored to be amongst you on this global webinar on the exposure draft of information system audits, global opportunities for chartered accountants. Ladies and gentlemen, you are aware that as a partner in nation building, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India remains steadfast in the commitment to creating a robust, transparent, and resilient financial ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to very candidly tell you that over the years, the profession has played a very crucial role in strengthening trust in financial reporting, governance, and public accountability. You are aware that today, as India advances rapidly towards the digital economy, this responsibility has become even more significant. We have to understand that the life has to go on. कहते हैं ना, अपने हौसलों को खबर करते रहो, अपने हौसलों को खबर करते रहो, जिंदगी मंजिल नहीं सफर है चलते रहो. Keep on moving ahead, keep on creating value, and that is important in today's contemporary times. As an institute, the largest institute of the world, with over 5,28,000 members and 11,67,000 students, we need to recognize that the Indian economy is undergoing a paradigm shift. Technology is not a mere enabler, it has become the bedrock of financial transactions, governance, and service delivery. I want to tell you that with this digital acceleration comes complex information systems, heightened cyber risks, large scale data processing, and algorithm driven decision making. And that is why the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, under the able leadership of the chairman, Shri Dayanivas Sharma, the vice chairman, Shri Arpit Kabra, and more importantly, the beacons of strength, all who have supported DAB since the time DAB was created. You all have a very, very poignant role to play in creating value and worth. And therefore, you thought it important that information system audit standards be promulgated, as it creates not only value and worth, but creates a complex compliance area control environment where things move in the right direction. These developments demand assurance frameworks that are capable of addressing not only financial risks, but also technology, cybersecurity, data protection, and system risks in a structured and consistent manner. You all know that your institute has always been at the forefront of such thought leadership. We issued the world's first forensic accounting and investigative standards under DAB to bring structure and global credibility to forensic engagements. Now, ICA has taken the next decisive step in technology assurance by formulating a comprehensive suite of information system audit standards. These standards are principle based, globally aligned, and technology focused, reflecting the long awaited ICA's vision of future ready assurance. Ladies and gentlemen, the ISAS framework has been designed to bridge the gap between traditional financial audit and modern technology assurance. I want to tell you that the entire team of DAB, along with all the constituents, all the members who helped DAB create history, have this vision in mind. They want to create a unified and consistent methodology for undertaking information system audit engagements across industries and regulators, enhancing the reliability and integrity of data used for regulatory and management reporting, strengthening governance mechanisms around IT governance, cybersecurity, data privacy, and technology risk. The draft standards presently comprises of 11 standards and 3 overarching documents, a very focused, a very precise, structured framework, which is supported by a series of information system audit standards. These include standards on basic principle of information system audit, which was discussed earlier. It also lays down foundational requirements such as independence, integrity, professional competence, confidentiality, and key professional care. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are standards focusing on business and information systems context. And I want to tell you very clearly that it addresses engagement planning, execution of assignments, specific focus areas such as IT general controls, application controls, and more importantly, incident response as well as reporting and quality control. The issuance of this exposure draft reflects ICAI's inclusive and consultative approach to standard setting. Now, I would request all of you to please ensure that members, regulators, industry, and international stakeholders actively review the draft and share these comments on its applicability, scope, sector-specific nuances, and alignment with existing IT governance and regulatory frameworks. Such participation will ensure that final standards are not only conceptually sound, but also practical, implementable, and globally relevant. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end, I commend the Digital Accounting Assurance Board, its chairman, vice chairman, and the expert contributors who have a great value in the eye of not only the profession, but my personal eye, for their dedicated efforts in advancing this important initiative. I am very confident that today's deliberation will further enrich the discourse and help shape globally relevant and future-ready standards. I wish this webinar great success and look forward to continued collaboration from all stakeholders in this significant nation-building endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, to end with, I'm in the habit of saying couplets. The last couplet of the day from me. They say, मैं खुदा का नाम लेकर पी रहा हूँ दोस्तों. मैं खुदा का नाम लेकर पी रहा हूँ दोस्तों. जहर भी इसमें हुआ तो दवा हो जाएगा. जहर भी इसमें हुआ तो दवा हो जाएगा. इसमें जहर नहीं दवा है, दवा अमृत बन जाएगी. It would put us at the center stage of international landscapes. India is emerging very slowly as a very powerful international hub of services. Very international power of technology-driven things. You'll be happy to know that 81% of international technology initiatives emerge from India. So working under DAB and creating such documents that would help the industry scale high with respect to technology risks and more importantly, financial prudence would put us at a world map. I want to thank you all for inviting me. Thanks for your beautiful wishes on my birthday. They mean a lot to me. And more importantly, thank all of you to creating such professional literature which will help our institute scale newer heights and be the best institute of the world. Thank you. Thank you so much.
President, sir, thank you very much. It is indeed to have you listen a great pleasure, no doubt about it. But most importantly, on your birthday to come out with this kind of exposure draft. Friends, as I was telling in the beginning, let me just tell you one fact. Honorable President, it was, I think, over a night decision taken to draft this information accepted, undoubtedly. President, sir, I'll just take back you to the discussion which we had in Mumbai at night 11 o'clock.
I very fondly recollect it, very fondly.
yes, all these faculties or who are the knowledge people have sat with you overnight, and we all decided together that we should have our own information system audit standards. And next day, in presence of the honorable chairman of SEBI, president has announced that ICAI will be coming with ISAS. Sir, your forward-looking vision, your confidence in DAB has given us today this day to reach out to public at large
Daya bhai,
for a newer
this was
document.
truly your endeavor.
Thank you very much for
Coupled
making
with the
it possible,
support of
sir,
the keen
for giving
industry
all the
peoples.
encouragement, positivity, energy, follow-up to give a responsible standard. You are blessing, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You can please proceed now ahead with the 500, 600 series. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Duaji, over.
Thank you very much for the comments and observations. We are pretty much completed with the presentation. There is one section left that I will just take a minute, and then we can move on to the wrap-up phase. Basically, on reporting and quality, we need the reports to conclude on all the work that gets done, and the requirements are pretty much asking us to ensure that a written report is issued, and the contents of the report, of course, vary based on the mandate and the nature of assurance that is to be given. But a lot of the discussions that have already taken place about the planning and execution get wrapped up in a report, so that the receiver of the services clearly understands the outcome of the work performed and take comfort and benefit from the findings, and take appropriate action with regard to that. Of course, on the quality side, we have a number of requirements that ensure that the work that gets done is in accordance with the expectations of the institute, and along with that, there are requirements to make sure that we remain up to date with all the developments. As you know, this is one of the main areas where so much is happening that we as chartered accountants have to go back to our days when we used to study so hard to remain up to date and get ready for the exams. We need to now imbibe those efforts to continue to remain up to date on the developments that are happening in our digital world. With that, I conclude the presentation. We have one section here on opportunities, which I would request Daya sir to decide how we would like to complete this, because we have more or less run out of time. And we would like, before I sign off from the presentation, I would like to thank all the presenters and all the experts for their unstinting support in putting these standards together. And most important of all is a big thank you to our chairman, Daya sir, who has taken such a what I would call an emotional involvement with these standards, in terms of the manner in which he's put in all the time and effort to put this team together, and then continuously involved with our meetings, be they physical meetings or virtual meetings, in keeping us motivated and keep going with tight deadlines. Never in my first professional life have I seen such kind of high quality work getting generated in such a short period of time. And it's been amazing working with you, sir. And I think I speak on behalf of all my team members and all the team members of the high regard we hold with the leadership in how you've taken us forward in this area. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Harish ji. Who is the next presenter for the opportunities?
Yes, sir. Vijay sir is going to present some things. Would you like me to just put the screen back on?
Yeah, Vijay, I would request you to kindly take the comparison pre and post the IS audit standards.
Thank you, Dayal sir. Thank you, Hariji. Yeah. So coming back, I think this is where most of the people will be looking for all those people, 36,000 DISA qualified and non-members who are trying to enter into this, because unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you call, we have lack of regulation in terms of regulating this domain of IS audit, unlike other parts. So these standards actually, most importantly, will try to regularize these kind of domain audits, wherein probably the regulators might consider these as a standard, and irrespective of whether you are a DISA CA qualified or anyone, how you can use these standards so that I, as a regulator, will have comfort on the output what I'm reviewing. So that's where the major role played by these standards. So we have various opportunities, like I've listed down 8 opportunities, which you can pretty much see it on the screen. But I'll try to connect with the 2 different opportunities, which may not be directly, might be seen as an opportunity. Say, for example, if I speak about certain guidance on MSMEs, they have issued certain guidelines about how MSMEs have to comply with the cybersecurity posture, and how voluntarily they can appoint someone to review that particular cybersecurity. Now, you know that we are speaking about 6.25 lakh of MSMEs or even beyond that. Now, to cater the requirement of MSME and that to comply with the certain guidelines, obviously someone need to have a technical knowledge first thing and a roadmap of implementing that as a proper format. So that's where these IS standards comes into play, because we are all pretty much connected with all these business entities by virtue of financial services, could be audit or consulting, whatever it may be. Now, with that kind of connection, if I can ensure that the MSME audits to whom I'm serving, if I can come up with a standard policy development, if I can come up with a standard review of those policies implemented by the respective MSMEs, so that's the comfort what we are giving as a chartered accountant, as a DISA qualified to them, is it not? So that is one area where you might say that, okay, there is no regulatory requirement which requires this MSME audit, but I'll say that I give this kind of standard, I perform this audit, and I'll request MSME to approach the way they were approaching for funding, and these policies and this audit will have weightage in negotiating on the interest rate and on the amount what he is going to, because we are creating the trust on the controls implied by the MSME. That is one opportunity. Second, indirectly, is DPDPA. It speaks about safeguarding of information. Okay, especially for data fiduciaries is one level. Significant data fiduciaries, like those handling with the high data, like banks, insurance, there is again a different level of security what they have to comply with. Now, I might say that I need to comply with DPDP. As we all know, this is everyone, including us, have to comply by November 13, 2026. Now, by saying so, let's assume some breach has happened and there is a penalty imposed on us. Now, how I can substantiate saying that no, this is not something which has gone out of my control? I have an IS audit review in my hand. I've done my organization IS audit performed by this expert through following the standards. And if I put this before the regulator, and you can see that the impact of penalty might definitely come down, because you're proving your controls are there. Someone has reviewed the controls. The breach has happened beyond that, which is not in your control. So that's where the penalties, the impact of penalties might have a huge reduction. So you can think of various such kind of areas where indirectly you can connect this, because these standards is giving that kind of comfort, no matter whether you have earlier done any IS audits, you are qualified enough to do. Now these standards will help you perform those kind of reviews, especially whether it is 400 series or any other series kind of thing. You can probably take the help of these IS standards. So that's the big opportunity what you have. And as I was saying, indirectly, if you search on every domain what we are dealing, the digital domain, whether it is GST, income tax, or any MCA, everything is out based on the controls what they have. If I can create the trust on the controls, obviously regulators will be satisfied with the compliances what they are receiving. So that is where this IS audit will give that kind of comfort to your clients, wherein you can pitch in and perform these kind of reviews with the help of these IS standards. So considering the timelines, I'll probably will have few more workshops down the lane. I would request Ankur to please take over to continue with the final proceedings. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Chairman sir, would you like to add
Yeah. So friends, you heard Vijay Srinivas showing which are all the areas which are actually becoming very relevant in the entire ecosystem of information system audit standards, and what are the opportunities which are lying in. But most importantly, if you go back to the fundamentals of our audit again, and the requirement of audit trail, which is again becoming very critical in the process, and also the IFC framework in which we are already certifying certain the audit report, which requires a complete check. And now, with regards to C&AG, RBI, SEBI coming up with its own IT governance structure and announcements and notifications, that the role of chartered accountants cannot be restricted only for number crunching alone. And they are expecting a lot to come. Friends, the effort which we have put in to get this standards in place is from a perspective where we wanted all the people to understand how do I start and how do I end. See, their entire standards gives you an approach methodology, and undoubtedly we'll be coming out with our technical guide on how do we implement the standards as well. But in the meantime, as rightly stated by my vice chairman, recently the court has given announcement and judgment saying that this forensic audits are to be done, forensic accounting engagements are to be done by a chartered accountant only. In a similar way, time is going to come where the processes, where the transaction is flowing through, the pipelines from which the transactions are flowing through, will play a very critical role as an auditor's role, because we need to define the processes which are going on. There is no hole in the issue. Whole is whole in the issue, where the data can be leaked or data can be tweaked. And most importantly, these processes are going to play a very critical role in time to come. We were doing an evaluation of what should be the size of market which is available for this, and we stopped thinking after going to a level where the UPI transaction, the way they are impacting the entire ecosystem, the new evolvement which is happening in AI and multiple such other areas that need to be certified by a chartered accountant, because again, blockchain will require an assurance coming from a chartered accountant. Cyber security issues are again going to be required, because you need to test if there is any kind of fraud which is there, and you need to report whether all the data which has been protected by the company is in a right shape or not. There is a huge amount of focus by the government of India to ensure that the Indian data is not getting exposed for any negative, involvements. That is the reason ICI has taken this responsibility on its shoulders to say that we will ensure that our chartered accountants grow up and skill up in this entire process. Friends, there is a lot which is coming up from Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, and I request you all people to kindly closely be in touch with the ICI's website as well as DAB page with regards to the certification courses which are happening, and the new skill development workshops which are going to take place. We have got an approval from the president side to create data analytic labs, forensic labs across the country. And just imagine, we are going to walk towards this entire computer systems which are going to be placed in the center of excellences, particularly is to start with Hyderabad. They will be fully loaded with the softwares or technologies which are required to be known to a chartered accountant, so that before you buy your entire softwares, you can have your hands-on experience in this entire process. Why we are doing this is primarily to ensure that you go through an experimentation process, you learn at the institute premises, and also we are coming out with the concept of pay and use model, where if you are getting an engagement, you can get the client data, and you can actually take those 3-4 desktops which is loaded with the technologies which are required. You can run the entire data, complete your reports, and actually go back and issue your reports. In that process, what happens is you are not going to any external agencies, you are going to institute. The data will be protected in true sense, and at the end of the engagement, that can be deleted and be kept as a fresh for second use. Friends, we are coming out with DISA 4.0 shortly, including DISA Plus. So DISA Plus is for those people who have already completed their DISA certifications and they have qualified their examination, so that they actually get a refreshed learning in the process with the newer things which are designed and which are required for the market conditions. Similarly, DISA 4.0 syllabus itself is upgraded to a level where the newer technologies are actually being included. Similarly, the forensic certification course is now getting converted into a diploma course. That means you are going to be an expert in forensic engagements in time to come. So earlier it was a certification course. Now it is going to be a diploma course shortly. We are waiting for the ministry approval. Once that is done, the integration of forensic and information technology will take you to a total different level. And be rest assured, the kind of material which is getting developed by our experts is going to be world-class data, which you will cherish to have a book in your office itself to always refer and say that, okay, whether I'm complying with this or not. And most importantly, we are going to create our own AI agent for this entire learning experience, where you can do certain experimenting of how things have to be planned. So the AI tool itself will give you an idea on how to start and how to conclude engagements. And most importantly, the risk factors which are required to be looked into very cautiously, that also will be highlighted in the process. I hope this standards, once it has been approved by the council and going to the ministry, goes with your feedback. Your feedback is very important because it is going to impact each one of us in time to come. So rather than talking it at a later point in time, it's a great opportunity for you to give your suggestions, recommendations, or any input which comes down from your side to be incorporated before we finalize this standards for all of you and for the industry as such, for the regulators and for the nation as such. So my best wishes to you, Ankur. Over to you for taking it forward.
Thank you, sir. So now, as we come to close of today's deliberation, I would like to take a moment to express our sincere thanks to all those who made this webinar meaningful and successful. First and foremost, on behalf of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICAI, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable President ICAI for graciously joining us today and for his inspiring and visionary address. Sir, your guidance continues to motivate the profession and provides a clear direction as we navigate the evolving landscape of digital assurance. We are deeply grateful for your time, encouragement, and continued support to DAB's initiatives. I would also like to place on record our sincere appreciations to our Chairman and Vice Chairman of Digital Accounting Assurance Board for their leadership, strategic vision, and setting the tone for today's webinar. We are extremely thankful to our esteemed panel of experts, CA Vittal Raj sir, CA Premnath D sir, CA Vijay Srinivas sir, CA Anand Jangid sir, CA Uday Kulkarni sir, and Shri Harish Dua sir, for sharing their rich experience, practical insights, and thoughtful perspectives on the exposure draft of information systems audit standards. The depth of today's discussion have truly enriched our understanding of the subject. A special word of thanks to all our participants from India and across the globe for their active participation and interest in this important initiative. Your engagement and feedbacks are vital to strengthening the exposure draft and ensuring that the final standards are robust, relevant, and globally aligned. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge the effort of the entire team, the technical team, for their seamless coordination and support in organizing this webinar. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend ahead. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Ayaz, we can leave now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Vittal
Ankur.
sir, 1 minute रुक जाओ, अदय भाई चले गए.
Thank you, sir.
Live तो नहीं है हम Ayaz अब.
Okay.